Okay, good morning, everybody. We are ready to continue our studies of the path of the just. And we are going to actually, big milestone today, we're going to finish the first chapter. I don't know how long did it take us to do the first chapter, but it doesn't matter because we're doing it slowly and carefully and we're getting a lot out of it. So we just want to just kind of review a little bit about where we were up to and then we'll actually see the end of the first chapter. So, um, okay. So, I don't know if I mentioned this last week or not. I don't know if we finished off with this. I can't remember, but um, every human being has a challenge. Every one of us has a challenge, and that is that we have to somehow come up with a solution to the contradiction between the needs of my body and the desires of my soul. They're not the same. We know that. The body wants what the soul yearns for. Not only are they not the same, but more often than not, they're actually opposites of one another. And for that reason, it becomes very challenging. How do we deal with this contradiction? So I will say traditionally, historically, humanity has found three ways to deal with this contradiction. The contradiction between the needs, the desires, the yearnings of the body, what the body wants, what the body feels like doing, what the body is interested in, and what the soul yearns for. So the first approach that not chronologically, but one approach that has existed traditionally is the approach of asceticism, which basically means depriving the body of all forms of pleasure and all enjoyment. Basically living a life of physical privation, a life of bare minimum indulgence in anything physical, just enough to stay alive, but not participating in anything that has to do with any pleasure of the body because it's inherently evil. Okay, so you picture your monk sitting on top of a mountain, taking a vow of silence, not eating, not drinking, not participating in the physical world, and not having any sexual relationships, and staying completely out of the realm of physical pleasure to the degree humanly possible. Okay, that is one approach to the body soul. Empower the soul, disempower the body, minimize, negate the body. And then you have the opposite approach. The opposite approach is, of course, the approach of hedonism, which is the exact opposite, which is indulge every need, every yearning, every desire, every want of the body, and do so at the expense of the yearnings of the soul, what the soul is looking for, growth of the soul, development of the soul. And that is a different approach entirely. And that approach solves the problem by saying it's ultimately the body that should have its needs met, and that's what's really going to ultimately make a person happy in life. It's just indulging the body, as we say, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Okay, now there's the third approach. The third approach is the Jewish approach, and it's unique because it doesn't negate either one of these two realities. The Jewish approach is the most realistic, it's the most practical, it's the most understanding of the fact that there are two competing needs going on inside of every human being at every moment. My body's needs and desires and my soul's needs and desires. And there is competition between the two, and they're not necessarily compatible. So what does Judaism say? Judaism says, and this is what the Ramchal is sort of a summary of what the Ramchal has been saying for the last few weeks, is do enjoy the physical world. Participate in Hanas Olam Hazeh. Participate in the physical pleasures of this world. Enjoy them, participate in them, but utilize them and pursue them not as a goal, an endpoint, a destination, but as a means to a destination. What is that ultimate destination? Devekus, closeness to Hashem, clinging to the infinite creator. So the physical pleasures of life can help get us there. A delicious Shabbos meal can be an incredible experience that brings us to spiritual heights. A physical sexual relationship with a spouse who I love can bring me to a very high spiritual level. Okay, so the physical pleasures in this world are meant to be used. Hashem put them there for us to enjoy them, to participate in them, not to ignore them, not to negate the needs of the body, but to utilize them and employ them in our ultimate goal, which is the Dvekus with Hashem, spiritual connection. Okay, so that's where we kind of summary of what we have been saying up until now. Just want to find the exact line that we were up to. Okay, so you look on page 39. Let's just finish off here. So we said on page 39, sort of in the middle, accordingly, it is appropriate that one's entire direction in life, and this is, we had some challenges with this last week, that one's entire direction in life be oriented solely toward the Creator, blessed be He. Right, we spoke about this last week. Brian spoke about it a little bit. Brenda, we also had this conversation that this seems to be very absolute. The terminology over here seems to be absolute. Accordingly, it is appropriate that one's entire direction in life be oriented solely toward the Creator, blessed be He, and that he should have no other purpose in any action that he undertakes, whether minor or major, other than to come close to Him, blessed be He, and to break down all the barriers that interpose between him and the Creator, specifically all the physical matters and whatever is associated with them, until he is drawn after Him, meaning God, blessed be He, just as iron is attracted to a magnet. Okay, and we mentioned last week that what the Ramchal is telling us over here is the ideal scenario, the ideal situation, what we're striving towards. Of course, we all have to take it within the context of our lives. Okay, but when he talks about everything we do, minor or major, being in this direction of connection to Hashem, it does not mean that we don't do things in life that one might call leisure. It doesn't mean that we don't take vacations. It doesn't mean that we don't participate in physical pleasures. It means that we do so to get us to a goal, to get us to a point. There's a purpose of a vacation. The purpose of a vacation is to give us some downtime, to give us time to relax, to give us time to be able to enjoy our lives and be happy that we're here and enjoy time with our families, so that we can then double down on our efforts to move closer to Hashem, to cling to Hashem, to find new pathways, to blaze new trails in our connection and our service of Hashem. So everything is available for us to bring us to that point. Okay, and ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to break down what he calls the mechitzos, these walls, these barriers, these massive barriers that interpose between us and Hashem. And what are those barriers? Those barriers are, as we spoke about last week, our own bad traits, our own bad midos, our own negative character traits, specifically, most specifically referring to kina, taiva, and kavod, jealousy, pleasure seeking, and honor seeking. Okay, and all of the other bad midos, all the other bad character traits that get in the way of us being able to fulfill our purpose in this world. Okay, and that's really where we're up to now. I want to take a slight detour over here for a second. I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to show you a enlarge this a little bit again. Oops. Sorry about that. Okay. So I want to read together, take a look together. Hopefully you can see this on your screen. This is a quote from Pirkei Avot, Chapters of Our Fathers, chapter 2. I don't know if Allie's gotten up to this yet in her class on Monday, but it's chapter 2 and it's Mishnah number 4. And the author of this comment is Rabban Gamliel, okay, who is the son of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. Okay, and here is what he says. He says a few things over here, but this is the one that I want to focus on, and it very much relates to our topic. So let's just read it once. Maybe we'll give a couple of minutes to ask some questions, and then we can discuss it. So first, I'll read it once straight through. Hu haya omer. He used to say. That's Rabbi Gamliel. Say ritzono kirtzonecha. Make. I'm going to use my own translation over here because I'm not a big fan of this translation. Make his will. When I say his will, I'm referring to the will of Hashem. His, capital H. Make his will like your will. Today, so that he, meaning Hashem, God, will make his will like your will. One more time. Make his will, make Hashem's will like your will today, so that he will make your will like his will. And then there's one more part that I want to focus on, the second half of the sentence. Batel nullify your will in front of his will today, so that so that he will nullify the will of others before your will. Okay, one more time, straight through. Rabbi Gamliel used to say, make his will, capital H, God, make God's will like your will, into your will, so that he will make your will like his will, his desire. Nullify your desire, your will in front of him, so that he will nullify the will of other people before your will. Okay? Any questions about that? What do you think is going on over here? What's the point of what's being said over here? Anything that jumps out that's difficult? You have to unmute yourself.
David,
Yes.
the part where Hashem would modify his will to meet your will doesn't make sense to me, because he's the one who, Hashem is the one who, makes your will basically. So I mean, it doesn't seem that you could ask Hashem to modify his will to match yours.
Well, I don't think we are asking Hashem to modify his will. Listen to what it says. It says, you, Mr. So-and-so, should make his will into your will. In other words, you should it sounds like it's saying you should modify his will to meet your will, so that he will modify your will to meet his will.
Okay.
Whose will is God modifying?
Our will, his will.
Our will. Our will.
Small
Right?
H.
But whose will are we modifying? It says modify or make it. It says, okay, you, Mr. Vegan, make his will into your will. Isn't that problematic?
Yeah.
So you're modifying your will to match Hashem.
But it doesn't say that. I agree, but it doesn't say that. It says modify his will. Say ritzono, make his will, like ritzoncha, your will. Jeffrey, make God's will to be like your will.
Yeah, well, if I match him, then that meets the demands of what you just said.
Yeah, but
If I match Hashem,
it sounds like what you're tampering with, what Reverend Gamaliel is telling you to modify or tamper with, is tamper with or modify, change his will to conform to your will. Really? What it says, but it doesn't. It's a very difficult concept. And
Rabbi,
if A equals B and C equals B, A equals C. In other
I
words,
get that, but that's not what he's saying. But it's not. But that he didn't say modify your will to meet his will. He said modify his will. He could have said modify your will to be like his will, and I would have had no problem. That's the goal of life. Jeffrey, modify your will, tamper with your will, mold your will to fit his will. Perfect. But it doesn't say that. It says take his will and modify it to meet your will. That sounds like it's saying just manipulate God's will to fit what I want. That seems like the opposite of everything that Judaism is all about. Yeah. Somebody else.
Rabbi,
Rabbi,
Rabbi, I'm thinking that what it really is saying is that to understand God's will is a struggle. And basically our duty is to struggle to find the relevance, to find the preeminence of God's will in our own set of motivations. So in effect, we are struggling to find the evidence that God's will is relevant to us. And that's what I think is meant by attempting to change God's will, to take this infinite text of information and find the sufficient cues to make us comfortable in understanding that God's will is our will.
Wow. I like that, Les. I never thought about it like that before. And I think that's a really plausible way of understanding what he's saying over here. I like that. Carolyn, I see you're shaking your head. I think were you disagreeing with Les, or were you in awe of his insight? Carolyn Zabinski. I wasn't sure if you were disagreeing with that or if you were, but you were muted. It's unmuted. You're muted, Carolyn, you're muted.
No,
There
I was having trouble with the second part, the next sentence more than the first.
Okay.
And I was
Tell me-
trying to understand it.
Okay, tell me the second part.
Because why do you, it seems like, why would you want to control others?
Right. That's a great question, right? That's another question, a new question. Carolyn's question is a great one. Nullify your will, this is the second part, before his will. Okay. So what's the reward? What's the reward for nullifying myself before Hashem, before nullifying my will before Hashem's will? If I do that, what's going to happen? He's going to nullify everybody else's will in front of mine. It means like I'm going to be able to control people.
no.
People are going to submit to me. Is that what I'm in? Is that what I'm doing this for? Is that what my goal is? That other people, the ratzon hachim, the will of others, should be nullified in front of me. And by the way, what if there are two good people? Let's say they're competitors. Let's say two rabbis who have two shuls in town, and each one is a good Jew, and each one's doing the will of Hashem, and each one is trying to nullify his will in front of the will of Hashem. So what's going to happen? What's the reward if I nullify my will before Hashem's will? He's going to nullify someone else's will before mine. So that guy's will is going to be nullified before mine. But if he's also nullifying his will, then my will is going to be nullified before his. How's that going to work out?
Yeah, but if everybody's on the same page, it's only gonna be for heaven's sake.
Okay.
If everybody is nullified, the first two sentences are the important ones that you're going to make congruent your will and Hashem's. So therefore, you're on the right page. So if anybody defies that or tries to harm you or in any way acts against you, you will have God on your side to nullify their will.
I like that. Jeffrey's coming up with with what I think is a good answer to Carolyn's question, which is that what he's saying, maybe what this is saying, is that if you're doing this and you're living this way, then the will of other people that are trying to stop you from doing Hashem's will be pushed aside. Okay. Good. Okay. So let me try to explain this a little bit, and I'll tell you why I brought this up, because I think it relates very much to what we've been talking about. I think it's sort of a mind exercise, which is a good summary of sort of everything that Ramchal has been saying up until now. So the first thing is to recognize, the unstated point over here is to recognize and to be aware of the fact that there are two different wills involved in most situations, right? There's my will and there's Hashem's will. And they're not always naturally the same. It could be once in a while that it happens that I luck out and my will and Hashem's will are the same. But very often the starting point is that I want something and Hashem wants something else for me. Think about a parent and a child. Okay. What do I want from my child? I want my child to work hard, to succeed, to learn, to grow, to become a better person, to become a wiser person. And my child might want to what? Sit and veg out and take it easy and watch movies and play on the phone or play with, on video games or visit friends or whatever. Okay. So there's a competing will, competition of wills over here. There's my will for my child and my child's will for himself. Okay. So it's the same thing with Hashem. Very, very often in life, there is a conflict between what I want to do and what Hashem wants for me to do. Okay. I'm going to give you 3 examples. 3 examples. You can fill in your own examples, apply however you want. Okay. But I'm just giving you 3 common general examples that could apply to some of us, all of us, none of us. Example number 1. Okay. It could be, let's just say, the will of Hashem, the Ratzon Hashem, might be that I should start that for me, Hashem's will for me, might be that I start off my day with tefillah, with some prayer, with some recognition of Hashem's oneness, maybe saying the Shema, maybe saying Modani, maybe adding tefillin or adding the Amidah, whatever it is, maybe adding some Torah learning into my routine in the morning before I get started. Okay, so let's just say that might be Hashem's Ratzon for me, that I should start off my day that way. And my Ratzon might be, my desire, my will for myself might be to wake up and get going in my job and start right away, making money and doing deals and getting involved in whatever it is, checking off things from my to-do list and jumping right into the bone, the core of my day. That might be my Ratzon. There's a conflict. There's Hashem's Ratzon in that case, that I should start off my day with spiritual connection, tefillah, prayer, Torah. And there's my Ratzon that I should start off my day jumping right in as fast as I can into my affairs. Okay. Another example. It could be that it's the Ratzon Hashem, the will of Hashem, that I take one day a week where I turn off my phone, turn off my computer, put down my car keys, and focus on spirituality, spiritual connection. Okay, that could be the will of Hashem, that I do that. And my Ratzon, my will, could be to use that day of Shabbat for other purposes, either maybe to visit friends or to drive to someone's house for a Shabbat meal, whatever might be the case. Okay, so we could have, Hashem and I could have competing wills. My will is to use that day how I want to use it, and Hashem's will is that I use that day to connect. Competing wills. Okay, 3rd example, and then I'll stop, but I think you're getting the point. Okay, Hashem's Ratzon Hashem's will for me might be possibly that I eat the type of foods and I avoid eating the types of foods that are going to create a healthy spiritual diet for myself, the types of foods that are going to empower my neshama to do its job of connecting spiritually, and to avoid the type of food that's going to diminish the ability of my neshama to make those connections. Okay, and my ratzon, okay, in other words, Hashem's will for me might be to follow the laws that He gave us. And then my ratzon could be.
Can everyone mute? Thanks.
My will in that situation could be to eat what I want to eat, or to be able to go out with friends and go to the restaurants that I want to go to, and not worry about what I'm eating and not what I'm not eating. So you could see, I'm just giving 3 examples, but there are many examples. Every person in different places, wherever you are in your life, we all share one thing in common. We have situations on a basis where there's a discrepancy between our will and Hashem's will. Okay. Hey, Ellie, you're making a guest appearance, but where's the real superstar? The one that everyone really wants to see. Okay. So what happens in those situations? What happens when we have such a conflict? So I'm going to give you 5 possibilities. Possibility number 1 is I completely and totally ignore Hashem's ratzon, Hashem's will, okay, and I do what I want to do. Who cares what Hashem wants me to do? But that's his problem. If there even is Hashem, that's his problem. That's not my problem. I'm going to do what I want to do. It's my life. I'm in charge. Now I'm going to do what I want to do. That's one level. Let's call that the lowest level in terms of our hierarchy of connection. The next level might be that I'm going to try to incorporate some of Hashem's will where I can, where it conveniently fits, where it doesn't interfere too much with my ratzon. I'm going to attempt to, incorporate Hashem's will, what He wants for me, in situations where I can do so without too much, skin off my back, so to speak, without too much discomfort or without too much interference in my life. Okay, that's the next level. That's level 2. Higher than the first level, which is who cares about Hashem's will? But not interesting to me. I am interested in it, but I'm interested in it in small amounts where it conveniently fits into my prearranged schedule for my day, what I want to do. Okay. A third level, a higher level might be that I'm going to put Hashem, the will of Hashem, ahead of, in front of my will. And I'm going to do what Hashem wants me to do, but only because I know I have to. Because if I don't, I'm going to get punished, or something bad's going to happen to me, or I want reward in the world to come. Whatever it is, I have no choice. I'm stuck. I'm kind of whatever. I have no choice. I'm up against the ropes. There's nothing I can do. So that's it. I'm going to put Hashem's will in front of my own will. I'm going to do what He wants me to do because He wants me to do it because I have no choice. That's level 3. Okay, level 4 is I'm going to work really hard on learning and understanding and internalizing the Ratzon Hashem, the will of Hashem, and working on my own Ritzonos, my own desires, my own will, to match and to synchronize the two as much as possible. Okay, so that I'm now not only am I doing Hashem's will, but I'm doing our combined will. Because what I've done is I've internalized, I've thought a lot about Hashem's will for me, and I've internalized it, and I've worked hard on it, and now I'm synchronizing the two. There she is. Hi, Nana. came to Zadie's class. So, okay, so now that is the next level. That is the next level. And then there's a fifth level. The fifth level is I'm going to completely nullify myself in front of Hashem, almost as if I don't even exist. I'm going to completely lose myself entirely in not that there are two conflicting wills, and I'm doing my very best to synchronize my will and to Hashem's will so that they're compatible at all times. There are no longer competing wills because my will has been totally submitted to Hashem's will entirely. That's the fifth and highest level. Okay, so now if we go back and we read this Mishnah again, I think we can see how it makes sense of it. Aseh ritzono kirtzonecha. Make his will into your will. Okay. Now we said the thing that seems strange about this is it sounds like what this is saying is we need to change or temper or moderate or upgrade or develop Hashem's will to match our will. But that's not really what we're saying. Okay, so really what this means is as follows. We need to learn how to take Hashem's will as the standard. Take Hashem's will, whatever Hashem's will is, in all those three scenarios that I mentioned. Take what Hashem wants from me and take his will and set that up as the standard. That is the ultimate. That is the standard. That is what we're shooting for. Okay? Not by changing his will. We can't change his will. We don't want to change his will. We want to ultimately change our will. But we want to set Hashem's will as the standard in our lives. We want to learn how to train ourselves to understand what Hashem really wants from us. Think about it again as parents, right? Take Ellie and Alana. Alana might have a will that she wants to be able to suck on her pacifier. Okay? And Ellie might have a will that he doesn't want her to because he wants her to outgrow her pacifier. Okay? So there's a battle of wills. So in a parent-child relationship, it's like that all the time. Parents, children have opposite wills. The parent wants what's best for the child. Hashem wants what's best for us. We need to take Hashem's will and trust and believe and know that it's really for our best. It's not something that we have to regrettably conform to. It's not something that we should conveniently try to fit into our lives where it fits nicely and neatly and conveniently. It's rather we should understand and learn to appreciate that it's really what's in our very best interest. And then we should learn how to develop our desires to conform with his desires, because his desires for us are what is ultimately best for us. And that's what we need to be able to be maximized, ultimately realized human beings. So we need to take Hashem's will as the standard and know and trust and believe that that's really, truly what is the ultimate for us. And then we need to conform our will to his will. Not because not where it conveniently fits, and not because I have no choice. What can I do? I'm going to get punished if I don't. But because it's the realization that it's the ultimate for me. It's the best for me. The best possible thing that I could ever want for myself is to do the right thing. Hashem's not giving us a list of things. Do this, do this, do this. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Why? Don't ask why. Just do what I tell you. Okay, what can I do? I'm afraid I'm going to get punished if I don't. Or I'm not going to get reward if I don't. So I'll do what he said. No. Hashem created us. He created us with infinite potential. He's telling us these are the things that you need to do to maximize your potential as a human being. To maximize your ability to connect to me. Want these things, not because I'm telling you to do them, but want them because they are what you want for yourself. That's what it means to take his will, set it as the standard, know that it's the absolute best thing in the world for us, and then develop our will to also naturally want those things. Our will to want them as well. Julie.
Didn't he give us a list though? Didn't he give us a list of 613 things?
He did. He did. He told us exactly what they are. He tells us exactly what they are, and that's the amazing thing, But there's still a conflict, right? I can tell my kids, here's the thing: I want you to do your homework. I want you to, do your laundry. I want you to shower. And I want you to go to bed. Okay, those are the things, and I don't want you to bring your phone into the room. I don't want you to be up too late, and blah blah blah. There's my list. Okay, but that doesn't mean that you automatically, as a kid, are going to conform to that. The kid has his own list. Well, I don't want to take a shower. I don't want to do my laundry. I want to stay up late. I mean, blah 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 blah. Okay, so now what the child has to do in our construct is to say, okay, wow, my parents love me, smarter than me. They want what's best for me. They want to see me reach my potential, maximize my potential. And they're telling me to do certain things, even though I don't want to do them. I'm going to recognize that they must be for my best interest, and I'm going to develop myself and conform myself to what they want from me, because I ultimately believe that they know better, and that's what's best for me. So, that's how it works. We have conflicting lists. He gave us our list. Yeah, we have our list.
You want to meet my son? That's not quite how it works.
It's not how it works at all. But that's
right.
We're learning over here. When it comes to Hashem, we got to think of it in these terms. Now, it's very interesting, because then he says, and if we do this, he will make your will into his will. Okay, let's try that. Okay, Julie, make your will into his will, and if you do, he'll make your will into his will. Huh? Well, what's going on? It's so circular. So I think there's an amazing insight over here, which is critical to understanding all this. Okay, and that is that the point over here that the Mishnah Rabbi Gamliel is telling us is, what I'm asking you to do right now is impossible, because you are a human being and you have your own will, and that's just a reality, and there's no way, and you're going to be totally overwhelmed. And when you see that list of 613 things and all the subcategories under each one, you're going to say, no way, not a chance. And what Rabbi Gamliel is telling you over here is that Hashem is saying to you, just start. Just make a move to turn your will into his will. And if you do, he'll do the rest. He'll take your will and he'll help you, and he'll assist you, and he'll be your partner in this endeavor. And and he will help you to, over time, to gradually desire for yourself the same things that he desires for you. It doesn't start off that way. It's a process, but you start the process, and if you do, then Hashem will then take your will and he will help you along the way, so that your will become identical to his will. But you just have to start. It's like the famous saying in the Talmud where Hashem says, open for me the opening the size of the eye of a needle, and I will open it the rest of the way to a point where wagons can fit through the entrance, the opening. Okay, in other words, our job is just to start. Just to start. Aseh ritzono kirtzonecha. Take his will, set it as the standard in your life. Know that it's coming from a place of what Hashem wants, only the best for you, like a parent. Start to develop your will to be similar to his will. And if you do, he will then take you the rest of the way. And he'll bring you the rest of the way. Okay? But you just need to start. You just need to start somewhere, and you need to start making that move. And if you do, Hashem will help you and make it easier for you as you go along.
David?
Yes.
That's why I like the analogy to a ladder. Wherever we're at, on whatever rung it is, the idea is not to scurry up to the top, because you never want to go backwards. You don't want to overwhelm yourself and then say the heck with it and get off the ladder. Just gradually go one rung at a time. Hashem will help you. The Yetzer Hara will oppose you, so your will is free, but gradually go up the ladder and never go backwards. So you have to intelligently approach this. The other thing is that this concept is even embodied in country music. Randy Travis has a song, Spirit of a Boy, Wisdom of a Man. And it starts with there's always a conflict between what feels good and what is right. And then he goes on and gives an analogy, a superficial one, but you can see that is so ingrained in us. It's Hashem's way that it kind of perfuses the culture. There's an idea that there's always a dialectic, there's always a tension, and what we do, those decisions direct our entire life, even if we don't know it.
Right. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, now let's just finish the last part of the Mishnah, which Caroline had the question. Wait, where'd Caroline go? Caroline, you still there? Okay. Anyway, the point over there was the next part was nullify your will before Hashem's will, and He will nullify the will of others before you. Okay. So this is the fifth level, by the way, the highest level. This is nullification of your will. That's very hard. That's very hard. It's one thing to say, I recognize Hashem's will. I'm going to try to conform to Hashem's will. I'm going to do my best to synchronize my will to Hashem's will so that they're one and the same. But to reach a level of bittul ratzon, to actually nullify myself so there no longer exists any discrepancy whatsoever between my will and Hashem's will, that's a very, very high level. Okay? So what's the reward for this? The reward is that Hashem will nullify the will of others before me. So again, we pointed out the question over here. This is so strange. This is so strange. That's really what we're looking for over here. We're looking for Hashem to nullify other people's will before mine, that people will submit to me. This is like a power thing. So I saw a very interesting comment over here on all this, which is that when it says the will of others, ratzon acherim, it doesn't mean other people. It means other wills that you have, meaning your own Yetzer Hara. Again, it's the same idea that nullify your will before Hashem, and Hashem will nullify the will of others before you. It means that even when you start on this journey of trying to synchronize and nullify your will, you have this difficulty of your Yetzer Hara is going to fight you at every moment. The last thing in the world the Yetzer Hara wants you to do is to nullify yourself in front of Hashem. So what's going to happen? Yetzer Hara is going to put on gloves and get into the ring and start beating you up. So Hashem says, don't worry. I will nullify the will of others. The will of others meaning your Yetzer Hara, your negative inclination. I will nullify that inside of you, and I will help you. I will help you in this process. Okay, so again, this is Hashem's promise. Just start, try, put in the effort, make a commitment somewhere to try to develop yourself and develop your will to conform to Hashem's will. Figure out Hashem's will. Pick one area of life. Figure out Hashem's will. Put in put my ratzon, my will, second to His own will. And if you do so, Hashem will help you by weakening and disempowering the Yetzer Hara that His clutches and His grip over you, so that you'll be able to be successful as you try to go through this process. Okay, let's finish.
David, how do you reconcile free your will then? If Hashem will nullify it, what?
That question comes up every single week, and the answer remains the same every single week. You always have free will. You always have free will. Never changes, because you always have the choice. No one's forcing you to do it. Free will doesn't mean that free will means you have the choice to do it or not, or to nullify or not to nullify. And even when you nullify your will, you never nullify it entirely. You can't completely nullify your will, right? And the Yetzer Hara is always growing with you as you're growing as well. The challenges continue and don't stop. So that's how.
So what you're saying is that Hashem will help you through scenario A. I mean, you know, whatever it is. Now, when scenario B inevitably comes up, you're going to have to bring all your resources and then trust in Hashem again.
Exactly right. That's
Okay.
That's it. Well said. Well said. Okay, now let's finish off over here. We're on,
Wait, David, David, one quick thing. The easiest way to accomplish what you've said is whenever you're in any situation, just ask yourself, what would Hashem want me to do? You have to learn what he wants you to do. And say you pick 5 mitzvahs, find out what he wants. But then when you're actually in the situation, say to yourself, what would Hashem want me to do? Just like a kid could say, what would my father want me to do?
right. That is absolutely true. The only problem with that is that the Yetzer Hara will try to come up with an answer to that question, which is not accurate.
Right.
You know, so like, you know, you might like a situation. Okay, I'll make up a situation. Let's say your great aunt, you know, I don't know, whatever, making up a situation. Let's say what does Hashem want me to do in this situation? It's Shabbos. It's Shabbos, but at the same time, I know that there's this relative of mine who, you know, is lonely and could really use someone to give her a phone call, you know. So what does Hashem want me to do? So it could be easy in that situation to say, well, what does Hashem want me to do? He wants me to call my aunt and chat with her and wish her a good Shabbos and you know, prevent her from being lonely. She just lost her husband, whatever. The Yetzer Hara can definitely try to convince you, and will try to convince you, that the wrong thing to do is the right thing to do. So asking the question, what does Hashem want me to do in this situation, is correct. That is the right thing to do. But you also have to be prepared that the Yetzer Hara will very likely try to give you the wrong answer. So you can't necessarily trust your instinct over there. You have to, that's why you need objectivity in your life. That's why you need people that you trust that are objective, that can help you in situations like that. Les, I see your virtual hand up there.
It seems to me that these concepts are so foundationally anti procrastination, because in those situations where you know what the right thing to do is, but you're totally demoralized because how daunting the task is, it is amazing to think that all you're asked to do is to take that first step, and then there'll be support. There'll be a fresh team on the field to help you. And it seems to me that that kind of puts us in a trap, because it eliminates one of the primary ways that we procrastinate. We think that something is impossible, but we're not asked to solve it. We're just asked to begin it. It's an amazing thing.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, this is like, you know, life coaching 101 over here. You know, Ramchal would have been a great life coach. Right. That's, you know, I'm actually working with a coach, not my wife, because that would probably not be a good idea. But I'm actually working with a coach, and she's working on this concept with me called Eat Your Frog. Eat Your Frog. I don't know if you've ever heard of this idea, but basically everyone has a frog. You know, it's a disgusting thing to think about eating a frog, right? So like, if someone told you have to eat a frog every day, the best thing to do would be to, instead of waking up in the morning and staring at the frog all day long, you just wake up and you eat the frog right away, first thing, and then you get on with your day, right? So every day you have a frog. It's that one thing that you have to do, that's got a deadline, it's got to be done. It's not something you want to do, but it's got to be done. So you just, every day, you just got to wake up, and the night before you go to bed, you got to identify what your frog is, And then in the morning, you got to wake up and you got to just eat the frog, and that's it. And once you eat the frog, then the rest of the day is easy. Sometimes it's just a matter of like identifying that one thing, just make that move, open your mouth and eat that frog, and then Hashem helps you with the rest. Okay, I want to finish the chapter over here. Momentous occasion. Okay, so continue on page 40. Thus, anything that one thinks can be a means toward this closeness, he should pursue and grasp and not loosen it from his grasp. Okay, you like kind of like what my father was saying. Identify. This is what Hashem wants from you over here. Make sure it's correct. By the way, run it by somebody. Don't trust your own intuition, because we are very biased when we're making decisions like this. Run it by a friend. Run it by a mentor. But once you've done that and you've identified this is something that's going to bring me closer to Hashem, run towards it, grasp it, and don't let go. If anything that you think can be a barrier to this goal, meaning the goal of closeness to Hashem, you should flee from it as one flees from a fire. Okay, this focus in life is accordance with what is stated in Tehillim. Davka nafshi acharecha ki tamcha yinecha. My soul cleaves after you. Your right arm supported me. Kevan shebiyasa la'olam ena elo l'tachlis. Since your entrance into this world is only for this goal, namely to cling to Hashem, to achieve this closeness, while escaping everything that impedes or detracts from it. Okay. And by the way, it's a beautiful quote from Tehillim, from Psalms. It doesn't say, let my mind cling to Hashem, right? It doesn't say my mind clings after you. And it doesn't say my heart clings after you. It says, Davka nafshi, my soul clings after you. Meaning every aspect of existence, my entire being, my physical, my spiritual, my emotional being, every part of me yearns for nothing other than to cling to you. David HaMelech, King David, is telling us here in Psalms that what all we are, everything about who we are, is we are just creatures that yearn to cling to Hashem. Every part of us just yearns to cling to Hashem. And anything that and that's our natural default. That's who we are as human beings. So as soon as we identify those things which are going to help us get there, we run towards them and don't let go. And when we see things that are going to prevent us from getting there, we run away from them as fast as we can. And then he finishes and he says, now, once we know and have clarified for ourselves the truth of this principle, we should investigate its details according to their levels, from the beginning of the matter to its conclusion. According to how Pinchas ben Yair organized them in his teaching that we have already decided in our introduction, and they are as follows. And what he lays out here are what the rest of the book is about. A ladder of how to ascend, as using Jeffrey's terminology, how to ascend rung by rung, one rung at a time, to the ultimate goal of ultimate devekus, ultimate closeness with Hashem. Levels, level after level, step after step. This is a guidebook to help us to achieve everything described in chapter 1, to get us to the place of devekus, the place of closeness to Hashem, level by level. And he's going to tell you what those levels are right now. We're not going to define them because the rest of the book is going to define them, but they are zehirus, vigilance, alacrity, cleanliness, abstinence, purity, piety, humility, fear of sin, holiness, and we'll now explain them one by one with the help of heaven. Okay, I just want to say, we'll talk about this more next week, but the real way to learn this book is to go one level at a time. So for example, you start with the first level, which is vigilance, which we'll spend the next period of time on. To learn one level at a time slowly, go through it slowly and carefully, to review it constantly, to internalize the ideas, and to commit to different steps of growth in each one of these levels. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna make a mark over here. We'll stop right here. Next week we'll pick up right here. And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start with chapter 1, which is the chapter of vigilance. We're gonna understand what that means, what it's all about, how it's a tool for growth in life. It's gonna be amazing. I'm really excited. So continue that. In the meantime, in a couple minutes over here, but I'm going to jump off.
David, one last question. You were talking about overdoing it.